Thank you.
Mr. Satyanarayan Gangadhar Pitroda, the great visionary, a son of India. We should be proud. Vision India Forum is proud under the Amrit Kal series to welcome such a visionary leader. We've had a spate of such leaders. You know, no one is bigger or smaller. But then at the end of the day, each has its own space. And Mr. Satyanarayan Pitroda ji has a space which is unparalleled, unprecedented as far as the growth story of India is concerned. The man is credited with many firsts of this nation. Somebody who has led the nation to the digital revolution, which we talk so positively and strongly about today. We feel so strongly about it today because we feel that is the benchmark, that is the pillar on which India's growth story shall be positioned. Hello.
Yeah, connection was really bad. I really hear you.
I'm not very sure about whether it was my side or your side, but any which ways, sir, I will hand it over to
let's
you.
Start.
Yeah, I'll hand it over to Mr. Sam Pitroda, the great visionary who's taken India to a growth story, which is something which we are talking so positively about today. But in the early 1980s, when he came back to India from his wonderful stint in the United States after completing his education, he has to take us through not only the various stages in the 80s and 90s, and also take us through the future of India, because that is where the topic lies today. Over to you, Sam Pitroda ji.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate your focus on the topic of India in the future. I would like to remind all of us that at the time of independence, India had very little. We had been basically robbed of many, many things. We didn't have enough manufacturing infrastructure, talent, capital, and confidence. As a result, rightfully so, our founding fathers focused on building human capacity. Values of the world focused on building IITs, IIMs, All India Medical Research, Agricultural Research, CSIR, Atomic Energy, Space Commission. All of these seeds that we planted 70 years ago are now beginning to give great fruits. It is a journey of 70 years and not 5 or 10. They had the vision to see that we would need talent pool to build our bridges, to build our factories, to explore space, to focus on atomic energy, technology, tools, all of the things that we did then. We kept pushing at our own pace during last 70 years. Nehru planted the seeds. Mrs. Indira Gandhi then built on it. And I had an opportunity to work with Rajiv Gandhi for over a decade on IT, telecom, technology missions, and many other interesting initiatives. Then, during Vajpayee's era, we also made some progress Absolutely. And then in Manmohan Singh era, we focused on knowledge commission, innovations, national knowledge networks, connecting our panchayats to optical fiber and all kinds of things. So the journey has been very interesting and exciting. I will talk later on a little bit about my experiences in Rajiv Gandhi era. But the key is today we are recognized world over as the leader in IT and telecom. Just to give you an idea, when we started in the 1980s, we had 2 million phones for in a short span of 30 years, 35 years, we are a nation of a connected billion. We owe billions, and at the same time, we generate $250 billion worth of software export every year, year after year. We get close to $1 billion of NRIs as foreign exchange remittance. Today, we have $600 billion worth of foreign exchange reserve. It didn't happen overnight. It had to build up. And a lot of people put in a lot of effort. I mean, look at milk revolution. What Korean, look at green revolution, what agricultural scientists did. At one time, people thought India wouldn't be able to feed herself. Today, not only we can feed 1.5 billion people, but we have surplus food. So we have come a long way. And I'm very proud of the fact that we are where we are. But we still have long ways to go because we are still a poor country. Few people may be very rich, but lots of people are still at the bottom of the economic pyramid. We need to lift close to 400-500 million people to a respectable standard of living. So our journey is going to be still very challenging for next 20, 30 years to come. We have potential because we have human capacity. I have great confidence and respect for our young talent. Our young talent is as they are because of competition. They have to work very hard. What it takes to get an admission at IIT. Look at what it takes to get an admission for IAS exams. So everything is very competitive because of the numbers. And our numbers are such that we have great advantage. I tell my friends in America that when you have 2 million people, maybe you have 10,000 smart ones. So number is our advantage and number is also our challenge at the same time. When we talk about $5 trillion economy, and you said in your earlier remark to me, that number does, but our population numbers are such that in terms of per capita, we are still nowhere. So let's not confuse these numbers by saying we are the 5th largest economy in the world. We have to be because we are 1.5 billion people. Okay, and you are comparing with other countries which has 50 million people. It's not a fair comparison. That's why I think we have a long way to go. But we have built a base. We have talent pool. We have, in Rajiv Gandhi's era, focused heavily on computers, telecom. And today, in this digital age, all that is coming to us an advantage. I mean, we have built global corporations in IT. TCS, Wipro, Infosys, and many others are as good as anywhere else in the world. So I think human capacity has given us advantage. But we have long way to go in research, development, AI, local production, our own defense industry, our own education is a challenge. Health is a major challenge. Environment is a major challenge. And at the end of the day, real challenge is employment. How are we going to generate the kind of employment we need? So let's not get too excited about billion-dollar companies or stock market booming or fifth largest global economy. Can we really create 20 million jobs that we need per year for our younger people? Where are these jobs going to come from? On one hand, we are talking about automation, robotics, AI, digital platforms to improve productivity, efficiency, cost reduction. And on the other hand, we are talking about more jobs. So this is a challenge. And that's where I think we need to focus on modernizing our agriculture. Our agriculture sector has really not kept pace with technology. Whether it is technology of chemicals and fertilizers and seeds and biotech and nanotech and all that, or technology of distribution, delivery. Ultimately, we have to really produce more food to be the fruit baskets for the world. We are blessed with Ganga and many other rivers. We have fertile land compared to others. I remember many years ago, I had a meeting with a Chinese scientist from MIT. And he told me, he said, Mr. Pitroda, the difference between India and China is that we have Yellow River that always brings in mud along with the water flow. And we have to constantly work and dig and dig. You are blessed with Ganga. No matter what you do around Ganga, everything grows. So you can afford it. We can't. Which I thought was an interesting conversation. That we are blessed with very fertile land. And we need to really improve productivity of our agricultural sector. We need to build 50 million new homes. And that's where the challenge is going to be in the future. So we can talk about many of these issues, but I think basic point I would like to make that it has been a long journey. Many people contributed. These things don't happen overnight, as some people try to project that everything happened in last 10 years. They are naive, they lie, and they ignore the sacrifices of large number of people who got us where we are. Two, we are lucky that we have a large talent pool. We have the workforce for the world, not just India. I mean, look at everywhere in IT, there are Indians who are working. I mean, how did America get all these CEOs of Indian origin to run their multi-billion-dollar companies? Look at Google, Microsoft, IBM, Adobe, and many other companies. These companies, trillion-dollar companies, are run by Indians who were trained in India, born in India, raised in India, and we all take great pride in their accomplishment. But it is the accomplishment of a nation. Not just individual. You go to Singapore, you see 5,000 people of Indian origin, professionals from IIT, IIMs, and others who are deeply engaged in economy there. You go to Europe, everywhere you will find Indian talent. And it has taken 75 years to get there. Next 25 are going to be very, very challenging. I can see Indian economy as the largest economy in the world. Absolutely. I can see that happening quickly. But that could happen only because of our numbers. Okay. If we continue to grow at 10% a year, which is possible, if we keep our focus on democracy, diversity, inclusion, peace, safety, security, equality, justice, then we can grow at 10%. To grow at 10%, you got to focus on democracy and not authoritarian regime. To grow at 10%, you need to focus on bottom of the pyramid and bottom up development and not top down. To grow at 10%, you need to decentralize, liberalize further. You need to revive, focus on Indian model of development. You need to look at some of the Gandhian ideas, which are very critical for the future of India. So I think a lot of young people get carried away with false, sometimes lies, and misinformation about digital India. Digital India is not a slogan that came up in last decade. Digital India has been around for last 30, 40 years. Rajiv Gandhi started NIC, National Informatics Center, which really laid a foundation for e-governance. And this has been going on for 40 years. And we still have a long way to go. Believe me, we are not there. This is a
So can I step in?
Please.
So, 1980s, early 80s, you came to India, you worked with Mrs. Gandhi, then you are known to be, the other side of the coin of it, of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, somebody who echoed his development sentiments like no one else. Then you again went back, kept coming back again during Mr. Manmohan Singh's regime. Where did you miss out during Mr. Narasimha Rao's regime?
I felt that at that point in time, I had to put my own house in order. I had gone through a quadruple bypass. I had run out of money because I never took any salary in India. I had two children who were ready to go to college. And I was worried about my own personal family challenges. My father had died. My mother was living with us. And I felt that after a decade of total family sacrifice, I had to really pay some attention to them. I had given up my US nationality. I was Indian citizen, so I had to come and work again in America, get a visa to come to America. The one who was citizen, my entire family was US citizen, and I had to come as a tourist. So I realized that I can't take my family for granted. They have sacrificed enough. Because it was a little bit of a confusion in India politically, I felt it was a good time to put my life back in order. So I came here, I started a business, but it didn't interest me. So then I started my work with the United Nations UN ITU and set up a bank in London to really privatize telecom in developing world. So I helped privatize all telecom globally as part of the UN. I was the chairman of WorldTel. I went to Africa, I went to China, I went to Asia Pacific, to Latin America, everywhere. And that's a satisfying thing to do. What I did in India, I could do it at a global level. Very few people recognize this. People don't even know. Okay, but if you look at the history of WorldTel, it'll tell you that we spend a lot of time doing basically missionary work to privatize telecom in emerging markets. And then when Manmohan Singh came back, I felt the next big challenge is knowledge. So I spoke to Manmohan Singh. He was very kind. He immediately agreed. He said, Sam, come work on it. And I became chairman of the National Knowledge Commission with some very distinguished people working with me. We had a great team of 9, 10 people, best of the best, wonderful human beings. And we all spent 3, 4 years in putting together a roadmap for India's education for the next 20 years.
Was skill development also?
Out of that came knowledge network.
Was skill development
Out
also?
of that came skill development, knowledge network. Absolutely. Universities, our report said we need 1,000 universities, 1,100. And then we had only 300. Now we have 1,100 universities. Okay. So I think the focus has always been on expansion, excellence, and equity. Even in software, we focused on expansion. So we started lots of software schools, training programs, excellence, and equity. So a lot of poor kids got into IT. I mean, you go to you see young children, especially from South India, on the street all over. You go to big companies like Cisco, you will get South Indian food to eat at lunch, because all these kids went to IT, got their BS or masters, and now they are on the world map, working for multinationals all over the world. Because millions of saw an opportunity with families, and they have done that. Okay. One IT person in the family can lift the entire family. And that has been a great contribution. So we focused on expansion. We focused on excellence as much as we could. And we also focused on equity.
See, during those
Poor
times,
kids.
so during those times, you had the best of people who came across, like Mr. Narayana Murthy, Mr. Azim Premji, TCS, Ramadurai, who was also your colleague in the, I think, in the skill mission.
Absolutely.
When Mr. Kapil
Yes,
Sibal,
yes.
when Mr. Kapil Sibal
Yes,
initiated
yes.
this along with you. Now, why has there been a gap in terms of that kind of a maverick approach or that kind of entrepreneurship? Even Narayana Murthy's statement like 70 hours a week, a work hour a week, is being criticized by today's generation. So what are your views on the work culture that has changed in this country over the last 30 years?
See, we have really drifted a lot in the last decade. We have drifted into an era where misinformation, lies, propaganda, showmanship choreograph events become a major issue, and the substance is lost. Okay. So there is no substance, it's all hollow. Okay. It's sound bites, images. Okay. I'll give you a very simple personal example. Yeah. I was very concerned about Innovation Council because we had set the Innovation Council under Dr. Manmohan Singh. We had some great people in the council. And we had now gone ahead and worked with the state governments to set up state level councils, sectorial councils. We had work going on in clusters, schools. So when Modi became prime minister, I called him. And he was very kind because I know him and we have had a good relationship. And I sort of said that please make sure that Innovation Council continues, because innovation has taken front seat in India's development, and a lot of young people are excited. Then, after that, I went and saw his secretary, Mr. Mishra, and I personally requested that Innovation Council should continue. Of course, you bring your own people. There's no issue. There are enough talent people in India. It's not that the group we had was the only group capable. So that's okay. You bring your own people, but continue. Within 90 days, Innovation was eliminated. We want our ideas. And I think that has been the strategy. That new initiatives has to be from the top and not from the bottom. Okay. It is important to democratize knowledge. Knowledge doesn't come from top. Knowledge comes from everywhere. Knowledge requires diversity. In fact, diversity is a fundamental requirement for innovation, according to me. Look at the Indian diversity, the language, culture, food, custom. I mean, we are blessed with the greatest diversity you can ask for. I'm fascinated with India only because of our diversity. Everybody is different and everybody is same. And when you begin to kill that diversity and focus on uniformity, you lose the opportunity to innovate. So a short answer to your question is we got to respect diversity, democracy, freedom, inclusion, and all of these things are being attacked in the present system. Present system is more about top down. It's about authoritarian approach. It is about uniformity, and it is counter thesis to long-term development.
See, sir, I'll just digress a little bit towards the political angle to this. Now, too much of decentralization also had its own, pitfalls in terms of large-scale corruptions that were unearthed post the Congress regimes or the UPA regime. During the UPA regime, it started the different gates, opened up. But at the same time, because of the decentralized kind of a regime, the centralized kind of a regime, and the authoritarian or whatever you may call it, kind of autocratic rule or whatever it is, ultimately the barometer of corruption from a large scale perspective, institutional perspective, seems to have come down pretty much in the last 10 years. Your views and comments, if any.
I think it is wrong to assume that corruption has come down. Corruption has been institutionalized. Earlier, corruption was distributed. Now, corruption is centralized. Okay. When you create an environment where only a handful of people get richer and richer at the cost of large number of people, gets okay. So let's not be fooled. Corruption is not an issue of Congress or any other party. Corruption is a disease in the country. Many countries have it. You know, corruption is the people of India. Do you want big corruption? So that's a way of life that has to be focused on separately. Okay. I'm not saying everybody's corrupt. Don't get me wrong. Okay. India runs at level. Okay. There are people who sacrifice their life and never take a dime. And there are people who do very little work and make money on side through corruption. So it's everything. Okay. But I think decentralization has to be the key, even at the cost of corruption, to implement decentralization of education, decentralization of health services, decentralization of production. I mean, you look at education, I'm told that this government has taken the evolution theory out, theory of evolution. I mean, what kind of a system is that, that we are anti-science? How can you not believe in theory of evolution? How can you not believe in periodic table? That tells me that we are really creating a mindset of kids who don't believe in science. We want scientific temper, logical, rational thinking. We don't want development based on belief. We want development based on reason. Today, everything is based on belief and not on reason. I'm happy with our past, our history, our heritage. I'm proud of it. But I got to look forward and I got to rely on science and technology. We are where we are today because of science and technology. We can grow enough food. I'll give you another example of vaccine. You know, we have been able to eradicate polio in India. A lot of people don't know how it got done. Everybody wants to take credit for it, you know, including people who participated in an ad for polio. In Rajiv Gandhi's time, we had a conversation that India has the largest number of polio patients and we don't produce any vaccine. So Rajiv Gandhi asked, he said, what would it take to produce vaccine? And I got some experts to advise and they said about 300 crores. So Rajiv Gandhi said, we should produce our own vaccine. And everybody in India said at that time that India cannot produce vaccine. So we sent a team to Russia, Soviet Union then, and we sent a team to France. And we worked with them to create blended vaccine. Today, India is the largest producer of vaccine in the world. How did that happen? Nobody talks about it. We have eradicated polio only because of technology mission on immunization. Stories are different today. Okay, people think polio got eradicated in last 5 years because of this or because of that. Okay. So these things take time, and these things also require operating at multiple levels.
Sir, how would you
So,
rate? Sorry,
yeah.
sorry. Please continue. Please
Go ahead,
continue.
go ahead. No, you
So, how
please
would
go
you
ahead.
rate the space moon mission,
Great.
lunar mission?
I think it is great. Okay, we have come a long way in space. Okay, but remember, we are here because of all the work people did for last 60 years. We are here because Sarabhai took the lead, because Dhawan took the lead, because you are Rao, and because of, Kasturi Rangan and everybody. Okay. It is not here because Prime Minister said, let's go to moon. Okay. You can't do that. Okay. Prime Ministers come and go. Nations survive. Institutions get built by multiple people. Space is a
Politicization of
classical
institutions.
example.
Politicization of institutions, key institutions like the
It's
ED
bad.
and CBI.
That's very bad. That's very bad.
But is it something which is
That's why
being done only during the current regime and it did not have any precedence in the earlier regimes?
I won't say that, but I would say the degree of it. It is not black and white. It is always gray. Nothing is black and white. Okay. But the degree of it can flip the coin. Okay. Today, I have three major concerns as a concerned Indian. One, institutional autonomy is of great concern to me because I believe our institutions are captured. It is not about ED that goes and raids everybody and says, oh, there is a foreign exchange violation. Okay, you can always say foreign exchange violation. Okay. I mean, I'll give you one example. When the notes were banned in India for 100 or 500 rupees or whatever it was. Okay. I got stuck with all this money. Because every time I went to India, I came here, put some change in my drawer and never took it out. Okay. So now you can say, come here and say, well, how did you get so much rupees? And blame me. Possible. But that's not the idea. Idea is to look at larger picture. So ED is one. CBI, income tax. People worry about courts. People worry about election commission, autonomy, and people worry about university autonomy. Look at all our vice chancellors. Where do they all come from? What's their background? Are they capable of running a university? Or they had some different background? Okay. So institutions are definitely captured. Two, civil society has been suffocated. You go talk to 100 voluntary agencies and they'll tell you, it's not my telling. They'll tell you that we are harassed because of some, again, foreign exchange violation, some foreign money coming in or something. And they are not allowed to operate. Third, you look at the television debates in India and you know that there is no scientific, logical, rational conversation. It's all about one-sided conversation. Media is completely sold. I mean, even the cartoons they show have a bias, built-in bias. Okay. And it's done in a very subtle way. The attacks on people on social media are all orchestrated. Okay. I mean, it happened to me 3-4 times. Recently, I said something about religion, Ram Temple, because I believe it's a personal thing. Religion is a very personal thing. And there are attacks by ministers and everybody. Come on. I'm entitled to speak. I have a free voice. I don't have to make sense all the time. I'm just a human being. I can make mistakes. It's okay. But the conversation has to be logical, scientific, respectful, dignified. You and I can disagree. That's perfectly normal. But the manner in which we disagree is very important. So these three things bother me about Indian democracy. I think Indian democracy is going through a very difficult time. and democracy will have impact on peace and prosperity. We cannot create environment of hate. Hate is going to result in violence, safety and security challenges. That will disturb our peace and that will disturb our growth. All of these are connected. Yeah. And you can't ignore that.
So the politicization on issues as important as agriculture, because you pointed out agriculture to be a game changer. In the years to come, it should be a game changer. And India being an agrarian economy, agriculture has to be focused upon, which Mr. Modi did very effectively as a chief minister. But of late, and the examples, glaring examples of disunity and political discord is evident. Not we don't have to go any further than thinking about the farmer protests, which culminated in the repealment of the farmers' bill and the food security issues. I mean, what would be your comments in this spate of the political discord which is prevalent in the country, which doesn't allow for any kind of constructive steps like the farmers' bill to go ahead?
See, the issues are much more complex than farmers' bill, I believe. Farmers' bill is important. And we got to respect what farmers are asking for. It's their business, they know it. And we got to take them into confidence. See, any policy issue must be first socialized. It cannot come from top. You have to socialize an issue. You have to debate or when half of your opposition leaders are out. That's manipulation of democracy. We told that our farmers' income will be doubled. Hasn't happened. Why? Because we haven't focused on the right policies for them. It is not just about fair price. It is also about distribution, delivery, storage. It is about technology of all kinds. So there is a huge, deep understanding that you have to have of the food chain. Farmer is one piece of the food chain, piece, but farmer is not the only piece of the food chain. Okay. Where do you store all this grain? Who stores it? If one rich billionaire decides to store all the food grain, you had it. It will be manipulated. Okay. So you got to worry about the entire chain. Farmers are very important. Farmers' income is critical. And today, if you ask most of the farmers, you find that they feel that they are not getting fair. You're frozen. Yeah, go ahead.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are now.
Okay, my next request to you would be to probably tell us a few areas from a security perspective and the kind of foreign diplomacy perspective which could be improved upon, because India faces huge crisis from all corners as far as security is concerned, because we don't have allies around us. At the same time, from a foreign diplomacy perspective, what would be your suggestions to the current dispensation and the dispensation would take over in 2024?
I'm not really an expert on foreign policy, but I look at interests of India from the viewpoint of the philosophy that our founding fathers laid out for all of us. We are a country who believe in independence, freedom, liberty, justice, equality. India and Indian independence movement decolonized the entire world. Let's not underestimate the power of Indian leadership in 1947. They were the key to getting British Raj out, not only in India, but also in Africa, Middle East, and everywhere else. Okay. Credit goes to our founding fathers for laying out a foundation for decolonization of the world. So we are non-aligned people. Today, there are two visions of the world: American vision and Chinese vision. Earlier, there were two visions: American visions and Soviet Union vision. India doesn't have to align with anybody. India could be non-aligned. Our interests are more important. But at the same time, human interests have to be even more important. Okay. To me, the human interests imply environment, it imply equality, it imply democracy, justice. See, unfortunately, the entire world is focused on power and profit. Everything is about power and profit. Okay. As opposed to that, we need to shift our focus to planet and people. India focus has to be planet and people. What is good for planet? And what is good for people? That is the Indian.
So from an Indian perspective, this is quite a dichotomous situation because you see, we are faced with the biggest reserves after China of the fossil fuels. At the same time, our requirements of energy cannot be met and people's welfare cannot be, catered to. Unlike the developed nations which have already, they have already milked the fuel factors. Now, where does India stand in such a catch-22 situation post the COP28 summit in Dubai?
Look, if we have enough talent that many countries don't have, okay, other countries are very small and they have very little talent. Our talent pool on environment, energy, ecosystem is huge. If we listen to our talent, we can turn the corner. I have great confidence because we have the talent, but we are not listening to our talent. Okay, we still have the old mindset which decides issues on global warming and others. You talk to our experts and they will say what needs to be done. Okay. But we are not following them. So I think India is in a unique position compared to other countries, mainly because we have very large talent pool in many, many areas, whether it has to do with water, sanitation, coal, solar, windmill, pollution, our rivers, our waterways. We need to pay more attention to domain experts.
Sir, we'll spend 8 more minutes with you. Kindly give us 8 more minutes time. Then we'll close the show.
Sure.
You were also instrumental. You were the great visionary. You were instrumental in the dairy revolution as well, if I am not wrong. And what we talk about so highly, so passionately about Anand transforming the lives of people to the extent of the SHGs and the, Angarwadi workers and all these women. They are earning approximately 200 crores annually from GCMMF, the Korean-led Gujarat Milk Federation. I mean, would you tell us something a little bit more about how it all came across and how it again could be replicated in similar ways across the country? Which are the areas which could be focused upon to create more Amuls?
Very good point and a great question. In closing, during Rajiv Gandhi's time, we had 6 technology missions. First mission was on drinking water in rural areas. Then there was a mission on immunization, literacy, oil seeds, telecom, and milk production. In water mission, we had 40,000 villages in India where there was guinea worm. Guinea worm is a kind of spaghetti kind of a worm that comes out of your body. Okay. And you roll it in a pencil and it will come from here, it will come from here, it will come from here. India had 40,000 villages with guinea worm because it enters from your leg through water. So when women will go to certain wells, the bug will enter from their legs and then grow in the body. People don't even know, you can Google it. Our job was to eliminate guinea worm in India. That was part of the mission. We had to provide safe drinking water. We had to create safe wells, desalination of plants, the water, okay, excess fluoride, excess iron removal, satellite imagery, geohydrological surveys. We did all that in water. People have forgotten how guinea worm got eradicated in India. Then literacy. Today we have 75% literacy because the seeds were planted 40 years ago. We should have done much better earlier. Then immunization. I told you about vaccine. Now we have a major program on immunization that started in Rajiv Gandhi's era. All vaccines, documentation of children, organizing systems, delivery, distribution, cold chain equipment. Okay, massive task. And CIIs of the world, industry helped us in setting up cold chain and all. So we work with the industry. Okay. Then oil seeds. We were importing $1 billion worth of edible oil then, which was a lot of money for us then. So we decided that we will turn the tide. And we did turn the tide. So we started exporting oil cakes. And we started growing mustard, soybean, sunflower seed, rapeseed. And we used Korean's organization for buffer stocking of the oil because oil prices were manipulated by oil mafia. So government will have to go in the market and buy all the oil and store it. And we did that with NDDB help because they had the cash. In the process, people would burn NDDB because it was against the mafia. Then milk production. We decided we'll be the largest producer of milk. And we worked very hard. Korean and I worked together very hard for many years. And today we are the largest producer of milk. The model Korean had, which is the cooperative model, has to be implemented on many, many things. People don't realize even in America, cooperative model is very successful because then everybody is the owner. We can do cooperative model in oil production. We can do cooperative model in fruit production, in onion, in tomato, in potato. We need to create more cooperatives where people become owner in the game. So Korean's model, and it took Korean 40 years. He came with a PhD from Michigan, came back and found Tribhuvan Bhai in Gujarat as a young man who had returned from US and he wanted some interesting thing to do. And Tribhuvan Bhai and he clicked and Korean settled in Gujarat. Look at a guy from Kerala, educated in America, as an engineer, comes to work ultimately on milk and makes the biggest contribution you can think of. That is the beauty of India. Okay, Kurian felt very comfortable in Gujarat. Okay. For many years, he didn't speak Gujarati at all. And he was welcome. And he felt at home. The diversity gave us that opportunity. So Korean model of Amul is really the model of cooperatives. And that model has to be expanded everywhere. Okay. And we haven't really done a good job of taking that model into other areas. Yeah. So there are
Make in India.
very few people like Korean.
So Make in India, what would be your take on Make in India, wherein the Prime Minister put a special fillip ever since he stepped
But
in?
we were always making India, right? C-Dot was making India. Milk was making India. Immunization was making India. What are you talking? Okay, just because you just give little publicity, PR and all that doesn't mean a thing. Okay, it's again choreographing an event. If there was no Make in India, why would you have space research? It was Make in India. Atomic energy is Make in India. Okay, what are you talking? Make in India does not mean bringing a plant from China and assemble in India. No, that's not Making in India. That's the Make in India you are talking about today. That's a wrong Make in India. Make in India has to be with roots in India as much as possible. Okay.
You've been a expert and the flag bearer of revolutionizing technology in this country, and social media is playing its part like never before. It's more like the role of an anti-social media is, kind of a misnomer attached to the technology, and it is really causing a huge impact on the socio-economic fabric, political fabric of this nation. How would you cut? Because the government is finding it pretty hard nut to tackle and crack. I mean, forget about cracking, to tackle, especially with the kind of money that comes along with it in the form of the Yahoos and the Googles. How do you, or the Twitters or the Facebooks, how do you suggest the government to tackle this huge menace?
See, to some extent, government is using it, okay, for their own propaganda and agenda. The problem with social media is that it amplifies lies very easily. It can organize attack on an individual. 500 people can be instructed to attack our conversation. That both of these people who are wearing red jacket were communist. Just take a dumb thing, okay? And their views are communist. And then it'll just go on the social media. And everybody would begin to believe it. A lie would become truth in their sense by repeating it over and over and over again. So social media has evolved as a platform to promote misinformation, mainly because it has two fundamental problems. One, unauthenticated behavior. Somebody can register as Sam Pitroda 1, who is not Sam Pitroda, and then start tweeting on my behalf. And it will look like I'm tweeting, but I'm Sam Pitroda is Sam Pitroda 1. So you are not authenticating the person. Two, business models are such that if you get more clicks, you get more money on advertisement. So you like to spread rumor. Because if you spread a rumor, it gets more click. Then you make more money. So if you allow people to hide behind a curtain and say all kinds of nasty things, that person doesn't exist as human being. He's just a virtual, all these robotic messages that come in come from these kinds of sources. So unless you identify a person, say, I am Sam Pitroda, I take responsibility for what I say. And if I say something nasty, I apologize. But okay. So that's a fundamental problem with social media. And we haven't done a good job of correcting, even in America, because of vested interest.
What are your views on the shedding of the family silver, the disinvestment issues?
Which one? Which
Families,
investment?
disinvestment issues.
I like some of our public sectors. Okay, I think they have a role to play. They played an important role in the past. And I do agree that government doesn't need to be in hotel business. But there are businesses where you need government intervention. Okay. So it's not a good idea to just go on selling things to get cash.
Like which are the areas that the government needs to be in business?
I mean, look, we were in steel production. Okay. Some of it may be okay. Defense production is okay. Telecom production is okay. So all the strategic areas, even mining, some of the mining would be okay, because these are strategic areas. Yeah. So sure, telecom is a strategic area.
There's talk of auctioning even and privatizing even the rare minerals now.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Okay. See, we have borrowed too much money. Everything is working on the borrows. When people talk about progress in the state, why don't you look at how much money states has borrowed? Gujarat is a classical example. Okay. Just figure out what is the debt. Okay. When you have borrowed that much money, your debt has, look at the debt increase in the last 10 years. So if you see a building being built and you say, oh my God, look at the progress. And then go find out that that building has been built based on the debt that somebody will have to pay, then it looks very different. Okay.
So India has not been able to bring back the fugitives. Like will be in the last few minutes now. India has not been able to bring back any, or not even a single fugitive back. And whoever the political regime might have been responsible for it. But then, what are your views on this shameful situation?
I would look at the larger issue, and that is in India today, we have 30, 40, 50 million court cases pending. With all the expertise in IT, global leadership in IT, why can't we sort that out? Why should it take 10 years, 20 years to get a justice? Why? So it's all interconnected. Our judiciary system needs fine-tuning. We may have talent in judges, but we don't have processes in place. Okay. Court cases go on for a decade. What kind of a system is that? Okay. You're talking about bringing, people back, but you haven't settled any court cases. So you got to look at the judiciary in a new light, saying, can we really clear our backlog? Can we bring the major big cases where people have borrowed hundreds of thousands of crores and punish them? So you got to look at a total picture and not just one little segment saying, bring these 10 guys back, which is fine. Okay.
Your most pet subject of telecom, the new policy is out. Few points of improvement you would have suggested had you been a part of this entire thing.
I think we have done well in telecom. I would like to compliment everybody, including our entrepreneurs, our regulators, policymakers. We have come a long way in telecom, with some mistakes here and mistakes there, which is fine. But the fact that we are a nation of a connected billion is a matter of great pride to everybody. Now the question is, what are we going to do with this connectivity? How are we going to use this connectivity to expedite development, eliminate hunger, improve education, improve health service, okay, improve food distribution, improve income of the farmer? That is the next big challenge. It is not that I have been given phone to watch Bollywood songs and cricket and political gossip. Okay. This is what is going on today.
Yeah, that is the pitfall of the cheapest data kind of, tom-tomming of the cheapest. But then ultimately, is it not backfiring?
For a while, it will backfire, but I think ultimately it will get settled, I hope.
Politically, polarization is one big accusation that the government has been facing. But India is a 115 crore Hindu country, people who practice Hinduism. I mean, what is the basis of this kind of allegation about polarization when 80% of your people are anyways on your side?
No, I think the basic issue here is that religion is a personal thing. When you and I started this conversation, I didn't ask you what is your religion. I don't care. It's your personal privilege. I got to respect you as a human being. To me, manavta comes before anything else. You can practice whatever religion you want. It's perfectly okay. I respect that. But I can't say that just because I'm majority, I'm going to treat you differently. I think it's the
Nitish
whole
Kumar,
issue of
sir, Nitish
politicizing,
Kumar,
the whole
sir, we'll
issue
have to
of
close that.
politicizing religion.
Yes, Nitish Kumar or Rahul Gandhi, who should lead India?
I'm not the one to answer. That is for India to decide.
But you already made a comment about Rahul's prowess and being underestimated as probably the
Which I
future
still believe.
leader.
Which I still believe. He's very capable. I know him well. He's intelligent. He's educated. He's energetic. He's young. You know, his heart is in the right place. He has the right DNA. Absolutely. Yeah.
What are the areas of improvement that you would suggest finally, sir, to the current dispensation?
Bring democracy back on track. Make this country a truly democratic country
And
with
what do you mean
freedom,
by that, sir?
justice.
What are the areas where the democracy is being impaired?
Make institutions autonomous. Give freedom to civil society. And have a rational, logical, scientific conversation.
G20 was a big feather in India's, or a big, jewel in India's crown. But these kind of,
But what does it mean? Hold on. What does it mean?
that's what I wanted you to talk about.
Nothing. It doesn't mean a thing. Okay. It's all, we spend a lot of public money in hosting this great event because it's a choreographed event. Okay.
Probably
There
the
was no need.
African diplomacy was a big positive outcome.
What is the outcome? I don't know. It's just photo ops and showing some, pictures here and there. Okay. What is the meat of it? Tell me. Is there any substance that I know of? I don't know of it. Maybe there is. Maybe I'm ignorant. I accept that. But I don't get impressed with all these choreographed events. They're all fake.
But some photo ops can have a huge ramification, as we can see in the current situation of Maldives. Suddenly, it is cornered and is, calling out to China to rescue itself. Just a photo op from the Prime Minister on the beach side. It made a huge, impact on the Maldives economy.
Well, let's see what is jury is still out on it. Okay. Let's not
Canada,
make decisions.
so you are there in the US for such a long time. What do you see Canada's role going forward from the Indian expat perspective, Indian immigration perspective, and also from the Khalistan issue?
Indians in Canada, in US, in Europe are becoming active politically. We have many active Indian politicians in America at state level, at federal level. Two of the candidates for president election from Republican Party are of Indian origin. Okay. So it's a matter of great pride that Indian younger people are taking active role in politics. And this will continue and it will increase over a period of time. But they also, at the end, they are all citizens of America, Canada, England, or wherever. So they have a responsibility to their own country. So all NRIs, so-called NRIs or children of NRIs, first have responsibility to their country of birth, which is America, Canada, UK. They do have parental ties, grandparents' ties back home. So Indians will become more and more active in politics globally. What happened in Canada was unfortunate. We don't know the details. There are two sides. India has one side, Canada has another side. Truth may be somewhere in between or on one side. We don't know. Let the investigations put things on the table and we'll see.
You are the chief of the Indian Overseas Congress, as we know. And Mr. Modi has been able to garner a huge fanfare and following overseas, ever since he's taking over as the prime minister, as the premier. I mean, how would you rate Mr. Modi's popularity vis-a-vis the effect on the elections? Again, the next elections are due in the next 4 or 5 months. You're also the chief of the Overseas Congress. So from a political opponent perspective, if you might like to comment.
At the end of the day, Modi is the prime minister of a nation of 1.5 billion. He deserves respect, recognition, because he is a prime minister of a country of 1.5 billion. He's not getting this as an individual. Let's remember this. Okay. Modi is not a great lawyer, not a great author, not a great scientist, not a great engineer, not a great businessman. He's the prime minister of a nation. And prime minister of a nation of 1.5 billion must get the due respect. So that's one thing. When you see large number of people coming to attend a lot of his events, at least in America and maybe some other countries, a lot of these people are so-called Bhakt or temple people. They have large number of temples in US, whether it is Baps or Hindu temple or Vaishnava temple or whatever. They all get excited, rightfully so, and they show up. And temples provide buses and temples provide food and all that. Okay. So it is important that Prime Minister can bring a lot of these people together and it is seen as a big event. But it is basically sponsored by a lot of local temple people, which is fine. I have nothing against it. That's their privilege.
I would like to now end the show. It was a privilege to talk to somebody like you for such a long time, and we can continue because I must tell you, sir, that this is one conversation I would have loved to have continued for another 2 hours probably, because the kind of learning that one can get through a conversation with somebody like you. Even I've had the best of speakers who come and graced my summits, my forum, my this show. But very rarely we come across somebody who knows the subject practically, who knows so many areas, probably each and every area that we can talk about under the sun, so very well. There could be points of argument, but my objective is not to, is not one-upmanship with my guests. It's always about to bring out the best from them and learn from them. All I can say, have a very healthy and long life. We should stay in touch. And, if Mr. Modi has an Odia from the Gujarat cadre serving him as a secretary, the other side has a Gujarati with a Odia background. So the fight is on. Thank you so much.
There is no fight. There is no fight. Okay.
Thank you.
It's a